All right. Well, welcome, guys. Blessed to be speaking here. Welcome to Class 12, Health and Healing Simplified, which is kind of funny as I'm preparing for this, and I put together a good bit of notes here. So it's simplified, but I'm like, yeah, I put together a lot of notes. But I did it in a way that I wanted to be pretty thorough. If anybody wanted to go back through it and study it on their own, pretty much I could just have you read the notes and I don't need to teach the class. But I'm not going to read everything, but it'll give you some good notes to go back through later on, pretty in-depth. So I'm not going to read everything, but I'll touch on different things and expand off of it from there. And then those that are watching this video on YouTube or something, we're going to have a link with the notes, or you can also visit our website, spiritofhealthkc.com, under videos, new videos 2015, and we'll have all the notes for all of the classes on there too. So, yeah, but anyway, I'm excited. I wasn't going to do this class, but I want to do one kind of wrap up, bring it all together. We've gone through the different systems, and which is great, going one by one, but I wanted to put it all together so we understand the body and how to heal, how to be in alignment with God and in our health and with every part of our life. So that's true living, that's true life right there. So putting it all together so that somebody can have an easy roadmap and the basics of our body. It is super complex. God is so creative and so intelligent how He made our body that the more and more I study it, it just blows my mind. But like I've said tons of times, I'm a more simplistic kind of person where I like to take the really complex and break it down to simplicity so that people can understand it. Everybody can understand it. You know what to do with it. It's not just these high-level doctors or you have to go to school for 10 years to understand it. It's actually, God made it simple but complex. So hopefully it will be simplified and you'll understand it once I go through this. And then if you have any questions, hold them to the end and I'll do a little question and answer. I'm not going to go through like in all my other classes, I would go herb by herb that are good for different things. I'm just going to go through formulas at the end because I'm covering so much. But I'll touch on a few herbs too. But it all is coming together here. So to start out with, I always like to start with scriptures and basing it on that because, God gave us some good instruction in His book. So right from the beginning in Genesis, He says, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." This was His original design, that we would eat things that He created in the way that He created them, right off of the trees, right off of the ground. No cooking, nothing necessary. He did it all. Like man tries to get so smart and arrogant and thinking that we can do it better than God did, but He did it perfect from the beginning. And His design was for us to eat everything that had the seeds. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs. And then I've got some other the second one I found as I was doing a devotional a couple weeks ago. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. And then I like to talk about, especially me being athletic background and different things, I do promote a more so, eating the way God designed it from the beginning, even though I know things changed. Our world's a little bit different than it was at the beginning, but I still believe that's the ideal way to eat. So I don't really talk about eating a lot of meat, dairy, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And sometimes I get flack for that. In the athletic industry, people think you have to have meat to be powerful, build muscle, and it's just simply not true. It's just a lie. And I like to talk about this scripture from Daniel. It's a great example, and I've been able to prove this in myself that I don't need meat to be powerful, strong, explosive. In fact, I can be way more energetic, powerful if I want to eating raw foods. In Daniel, right in the beginning of Daniel, it talks about Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, the best foods of the day, supposedly, nor the wine which he drank. Daniel said, "Please test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables." In the old translation, it actually says pulse, which if you kind of dig deep into what that means, it meant the seed-bearing, the fresh produce of the day, basically. but a lot of the translations now just say vegetables, but it's a lot more than that. Give us just this pulse to eat and water to drink. That's it. And then let our appearance be examined before you. So at the end of these 10 days, that's all they ate, right? They weren't eating the supposed best foods of the days, the delicacies, the meats, all that. And their features appeared better and fatter in flesh. And if you understand fatter in flesh, that doesn't mean they were fat. It means they were actually more muscular. They were more fit than those who ate the king's delicacies. So, and I didn't put all the other scriptures, but it goes on to tell how I think it was after 2 years they got brought before the king, and they were found 10 times better than all those other in the kingdom in wisdom, in I don't know all what it says, but in wisdom, in strength, in all that type of stuff. So 10 times better. That's crazy. And we see it today with people that eat and partner with God in their health and every other area of life. They're more intelligent, they're fit, they're healthy, everything's working the way it's supposed to be working. That's the way God designed us. He didn't design us to be sick and hurting and all this stuff. So, yeah, thank you. So yes, God's design from the beginning was that we would eat the fresh fruit of the day, the fresh produce, the fresh vegetables, the nuts, the seeds. And I'm going to breeze through some of this first stuff because a lot of this is recap of some stuff I've talked about in other classes, but kind of pulling it all together. Because some people only know of medical stuff today, but really medical has only come about in the last 100, 150 years of prescription drugs and all this. But herbs they have a written history over 5,000 years. And I like to talk about, I imagine Adam in the Garden of Eden there with God, and God teaching about all these things. Hey, eat this because it does this, and eat this because it does that, and the bark of this tree will take away your pain if and this will do this. And I bet he was just teaching him all what these different plants do. He created all these plants, and they all have a purpose. And then those traditions have gotten passed down generations and generations and generations. But you can go back 5,000 years and find written documents on herbs and how they were used. And they didn't even have the scientific stuff that we do today. They just knew you take this and it does this. But now we can prove scientifically when you study it and the effect it has and why it does what it does. But yeah, this is not new stuff. I mean, the Chinese and the Egyptians, it goes way back, and it's still estimated today that 80% of people worldwide still rely on herbal medicines for some part of their primary health care. I know that sounds weird because this Western world is so infiltrated by the medical world, but yeah, and even in Africa, it said that up to 90% of people rely on herbs. Here it's so low because the medical industry has just dominated this, which is crazy because it's only serving to do people harm. I put a little statistics here in paragraph D, but it's crazy. It's said that I know we talk about cancer and heart disease and all that, and how many people that affects, and it is sad. It's because of the what we're putting in our bodies and this getting away from God's design and connecting with God. But it's now said that conventional medicine kills more people than cancer or heart disease. That's how bad it is. It's almost criminal at this point that they'll test a drug and they know it kills people and they'll still put it on the market. It's that love of money is the root of all evil. And not all practitioners are evil, but there's just some root things that are kind of messed up and not connected with God. So yeah, I put some statistics in there, but even the cancer and heart disease, it shouldn't be there. It wasn't God's design. He designed our bodies so intelligently. Don't you know that it would be like God to design our bodies to heal themselves? It's amazing with all the junk we encounter on a daily basis that we're still able to function. We're still able to get up and think and do the stuff we're able to do. But because He built our bodies in a way that we can withstand all this toxins and bad stuff and still function at a high level. But how much more better is it when we try to remove as much junk as possible, eat the things He designed us to be, have the mindsets, be filled with love like God is love, and all this stuff. It just exudes from us just this radiance on how He was supposed to, He created us to be. So He designed our bodies to heal themselves. And I'm all about, don't get me wrong, I love God's supernatural healing. And we pray for people and they get healed sometimes. Not always. And I don't understand it. I'm not here to say I understand it, but God does heal supernaturally. But a lot of people forget the other aspect, which I think is actually more the main aspect. He designed us, if we were just in partnership with Him, with our whole life, we wouldn't even need the supernatural healing unless we were in some type of accident. But so many people just treat their bodies like junk and then go to God and say, heal me. And then they get healed and then treat their lives, their bodies like junk and then heal me again. And that's not, I don't think that's the way it was designed to be. But yeah, our bodies heal themselves if we give it the right thing, we give it the right environment, and I'm going to go through the basics of some of this stuff to kind of break it down for you. Another concept that there is no such thing as disease is a man-made word. It just means that there's weakened or failing cells, and depending on where that happens, the disease is named. But because they put a label of a disease, now they can treat it with a drug. So there is no such thing as disease. It's just a weakened cell, a failing cell, dead cells. But wouldn't it be like God that He can restore all of that? Anything that's weakened, anything that's been damaged, it could be fully restored. So don't ever let a doctor tell you that your kidneys aren't functioning well and you'll be on dialysis the rest of your life, because we've seen it time and time again. They can heal, regenerate, come back the way they're supposed to. So that's with every cell in the body. Neurological stuff, nerves, muscles, joints, it doesn't matter. So again, I'm going to go quickly through some of this part, but yeah, and the medical community seems to be mostly focused on treating the symptoms. It's just my opinion, but I don't know that they're super concerned about actually curing people. And I don't need to get into all of that, but even in the health world, we don't want to approach people with, hey, you have a headache, let me give you something that's going to stop the headache, or at least make it so you don't feel the headache. It's actually, the headache's still there, but it's disconnecting it from your brain, recognizing it. And that's still not right. Even in the natural realm, we need to address, why does that person have the headache? And address the root cause and fix that, and then the headache goes away. So, yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for the breakdown and stuff, but acidosis, toxicity, deficiency, genetic weaknesses that get passed down. But almost all tissue failure begins with acidosis and toxicity. And so I'll break that down a little bit more. But yeah, we never want to treat the symptoms, but go after the root cause. If you get the root, it takes care of everything else. So, how does the body work? Going through the basics of this. Let me get a little tea to wet my whistle. Get a little warmth in me too. I could so live in Mexico or something where it's warm all the time, but we get to enjoy the seasons here, so I'm not complaining. But so how does the body work? Yeah, everybody should understand the basic things, the way the body works, and it shouldn't just be, oh, you need a medical degree to understand the body, because I don't even think they understand the body, really. I mean, they understand some things, but in a way that people can use it. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, why do we eat, and what happens to the food we eat? So most people, I feel like, they're living to eat instead of eating to live. It's just eating. I mean, yeah, God designed it to be enjoyable, and He gave us awesome. You start getting into all of His like fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff. They're so awesome. You'll have a heyday just eating that stuff all day long. It never gets boring for me. And not that I eat perfect all the time, but I'm just saying, when I eat, I love it best when I'm eating, especially a lot of fruits. Man, I mean, He made those for us, and He made them sweet and delicious, and never gets old. And there's so many of them. I was just showing you the other day. I'm always encountering new fruits and new things and trying them, and it's just like, man, that's so good. So he designed eating to be enjoyable, but it shouldn't be. I feel like a lot of people, they're living to eat, and they're tied to addictions, and they're being controlled by their addictions. And of course, God doesn't want us to be addicted to anything. He wants to break all that addictions, and so food is vital. We need food. We need nourishment, but it's not to control our lives. It's to give us It's to give us energy. It's to give us nutrients. It's to cleanse us. It's to all that type of stuff. And every time we eat it, we can acknowledge who created it, and thank Him for it. So, yeah, most people swallow their food without even a thought of why or how it's utilized in the body. A lot of people just assume if it's edible, if I can put it in my mouth, it's usable by the body, and it's just not true. There's certain things that God designed to go in the body, and there's certain things He did not design to go in a body. I'm a car guy. I grew up working on cars, and cars are very simple once you understand the basics of it, just like the body. So everybody knows you have a car, there's certain type of fuel you put in it, and there's certain type of, everything has to be working right. It consumes, it eliminates, it has to consume the right stuff. Go and try and put water in your gas tank and tell me what happens. Or put, I don't even know, tea or Coca-Cola. It won't be pretty, and the car won't be running very long. It's the same thing with our body. If you put the wrong stuff in our body, but it's just amazing. Like I said, you can do that for a while and still still function, which is just crazy that you can even do that. Because you put it in a car and it's like done right away. You put it in our bodies, and God at least made us to where we can stand it for a while. We can withstand so much attack on our bodies that it's wild once you understand how bad that stuff is for you. But, you may not have an effect right away, but eventually you will have an effect. And there's stuff going on. It's just God's grace a lot of times that you're not experiencing and feeling the effects it's having. He's protecting you from that until something more serious happens. But it was never meant to withstand the stuff that we're putting it through today. Eating, digestion, absorbing, utilization, and elimination are always ongoing. So I'm going to break down these main processes and how they work. But the 4 basic processes that everybody has to do, and each process has to be working good to have good health. So digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination. Everything consumes and eliminates. Even at the cellular level, they consume, they eliminate. So the first process is digestion. We know that we have to eat and we digest food, but a lot of people don't really think about it. It starts with we're supposed to chew our food more than most people do. And in a lot of the ancient cultures, and you go up in the mountains to indigenous villages, they know how to really chew their food and break it down. That's a vital part of the digestion process. Also, just the chewing breaks it down, but then you're activating, salivary glands to stuff to start the digestion process. It all starts right there. And then it goes down, and your body has to be able to produce certain things in the stomach. The pancreas is very involved in producing certain enzymes to break down the food. Let me see here. So, a lot of people are experiencing, how common, I work at a health food store, so how common is digestion problems? It's everywhere. Because people are just putting junk, and they're combining all sorts of things, and they're having gas and not going, and you name it. We see it all day long, and it's could be from food combinations, and that's why I have in these handouts. We've talked several times about food combinations, and y'all wanted charts, so I put together some charts for you to understand basic food combining, because there's certain things that aren't supposed to be combined together because they neutralize each other. You combine a protein, like meat, it needs a very acidic environment to break that down. And then you give it a starch, which needs a very alkaline environment to break down. You mix those together, nothing gets broken down effectively. Therefore, it putrefies, it causes gas, bloating, fermentation. It never gets broken down, and that's the first part. So that's the whole thing. The foods have to be broken down to be able to be used. So your body can't use a protein. It can only use amino acids. So you consume a protein, it has to be able to break them down to the amino acids to therefore build tissue. It's like if you're building a house, you need those building blocks. But how silly would it be if somebody's building me a house and I said, yeah, just use this house and build that house? They would have to break that down to build that house. It's the same thing with our bodies. So you can't use proteins, only amino acids. You can't use carbohydrates. You have to break them down to their simple sugars. You can't use fats. You have to be able to break them down to fatty acids to utilize them. So you have to be able to efficiently digest, and that's where food combining, that's where eating the right foods, and then also the glands working properly to secrete things to break that down. So in one of the handouts, I go gland by gland on weaknesses that you can see where you might have weaknesses. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of digestion. And the next step, once you digest all that stuff, you have to be able to absorb it. So once the food's broken down, these building materials, you have to be able to absorb them. So absorption a lot happens in the villi, these finger-like little things in the digestive tract. A lot of it happens in the small intestines and the large intestines. But yeah, most people's intestines from the junk that they're putting in their body is impacted with mucus and what we call mucoid plaque. It's buildup on the walls. And you know, you can imagine if something's trying to get absorbed through this wall and there's a thick layer of mucus on there, it doesn't happen very well. And so many people, you see it all the time with like real overweight people. They eat and they eat and they eat. First off, they're continuing to eat and they're continually hungry because they're never actually getting nutrition. They're just eating junk food. Try and go and eat as much fruit as you can in one day, and you'll be surprised how full you'll get and how satisfied you'll get really quick. But go and eat chips all day long and Snickers and stuff, you'll be hungry out of your mind and continue eating, and you'll never actually be satisfied. So that's part of the problem. But then they're eating all this food, and they're not really able to get the real nutrition out of it. So again, they're hungry, eating, and their body's just storing fat. You have to be able to absorb that stuff. So yeah, this mucoid plaque and different foreign proteins and toxins, it all builds up in our, you know, I mean, you're putting something in your mouth and it goes through a whole line of stuff and comes out the other end, but it builds up that junk in there. So most of us fail in the first or the second stage already. But a lot of people are thin and malnourished and can't gain weight. That could be part of the problem. Or you have the opposite problem where somebody's overweight and they're constantly eating and they're never satisfied. They're not giving themselves real food, but this malabsorption is a real big issue. But yeah, the refined sugars, grains, meats, dairy products are all really bad for mucus forming, impacting the whole digestive tract, the whole GI tract. So utilization. So utilization comes in the fact that once you've actually absorbed, you've digested, you've absorbed, well now those nutrients have to get utilized by the body. They have to get into the cells. There's a difference between it being absorbed into the bloodstream or through the digestive tract and actually being able to get to the cell and utilized by the cell. We have 100 trillion plus cells in our body, and they have to be able to get the nutrients, and they're doing at the same level. They're consuming and they're eliminating. And I'm going to talk more about the elimination part in the lymphatic system, but just at the same way as we do at a larger level, consume and eliminate. But if everything's blocked up and they can't ever get that nutrients, that's bad business. So yeah, and I mean the liver's really involved. It processes a lot of things in the blood, and it decides to change fats to sugars or sugars to fats, and does a lot of, I mean, it's said that the job that the liver does can be done by like a 100-acre factory. A factory on 100 acres would be needed to build to do all the stuff that the liver does. It's just crazy. It's the largest organ, but it has a lot to do with this utilization of these nutrients. Another thing I put a little secret is the importance of acid and alkaline. Knowing that we're meant to be more alkaline, but people are consuming things that are more acidic and acidic forming. Meats, sugars, and I'm talking about processed sugars or starchy sugars, grains. Anything processed usually is very acidic forming, and we're meant to be more alkaline. So what happens is when you become more acidic, things start clumping together. They coagulate. And that's not good when things start clumping together, because things are supposed to be free-flowing. They're supposed to be able to be absorbed, more oxygenated. The more alkaline you are, the more acidic you are, the less oxygenated and the more clumped up things get. So this causes a lot of things. I mean, you get the fatty buildups. You get gallbladder stones, liver stones, kidney stones, because stuff's just coagulating and it's not able to be utilized. So sometimes we see people in the store here and they say, "Oh, I'm low on calcium." Okay, well most people's immediate thought, "I'm low on calcium. I need to take more calcium." You may need to take more calcium, but I would approach it more initially. You may have a weakness somewhere that's causing you not to be able to utilize that calcium properly. Most people don't think about that. They just think, I need to take more calcium. And if you're never able to utilize that, that calcium is just going to build up. You're going to get stones. You're going to get XYZ. You may need to take more calcium, but let's also talk about the rest of the picture. Cholesterol also builds up. It's when you're acidic, you have inflammation, you have pain. And I think we've talked before, and I'm not going to get super into it, but the blood has to be almost like a specific pH, like within 0.2 of a pH. The pH is the acid alkaline, it's a measurement. pH being potential of hydrogen, and it needs to be, I think it's like 7.4 to 7.6. If it gets outside of that, like you literally have minutes to live. Like you will die. So the body, again, God designed it so perfectly with such intelligence that the body won't allow that. So what does it do? It has to pull stuff from somewhere else to balance that pH. Sometimes that's cholesterol. So you get cholesterol build up in the cardiovascular system. You also get calcium. You get calcified veins and arteries and stuff because calcium is very alkaline. So if you're acidic, the body's just going to do whatever it's got to do to balance it out in the blood. So somebody can be low on calcium because they're acidic. So you always fix the basics of it first and then go from there, is I guess what I'm getting to. But yeah, cholesterol builds up. Again, stuff sticks together. It's just not good when you're eating acidic and you're not able to actually utilize this stuff. And then you get into the glands. So the glands are very important and very under-talked about in utilization of nutrients, minerals. Thyroid's very important for calcium utilization. So again, you talk about somebody low in calcium, there could be a lot of big things going on. Thyroid could be weak. You could be acidic. You're not eating the right foods. And the very last one, maybe you're not getting enough calcium, but you're probably getting plenty of calcium. You probably don't need to take a calcium supplement. But yeah, different glands responsible for the utilization of these things. And everybody's got glandular weaknesses in this world. You just can't get away from it. You could do the best you can, but I guarantee you everybody's got some degree of glandular weakness. And we see it time and time again. When you start feeding people's glandular system and getting that going, man, stuff changes. They start feeling way better. Great. Everything starts working better. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the glands, I think, a little bit later, but super important. They're what I would call the government, the master computer of your body is the glandular system. So all right, you got digestion, absorption, utilization. So those cells, finally, they're getting those nutrients that they need. Now what happens? Now they have to eliminate them, and they got to be able to get the elimination out of the body. Again, I work on cars, or I have worked on cars, stick a sock in the exhaust pipe or clog the elimination and see what happens. Again, I don't recommend that. It's not a pretty picture, but the same thing with us. If stuff can't get out, and everybody thinks about consumption and elimination through the bowels, but you have 100 trillion cells too. They consume and eliminate too. And guess where that elimination goes to? Our lymphatic system. And most people's lymphatic system is so jacked up, so messed up from all the foods that the body's working overtime to get rid of stuff, and then they're not exercising, and then they're not this, and their lymphatic system is like full of stuff and not moving. And then, and I've kind of given this example before. You have a cell, you have blood vessels on one side feeding the nutrition. You have the lymph vessels on the other side getting rid of the bad stuff. What happens if this tube gets fully blocked up all the way to the cell and the cell's still trying to get rid of stuff? It can't go anywhere. It's like if you're in a house and you could use two different examples. You never take the trash out, and the trash just builds up in the whole house. Can't go anywhere, or you flush the toilet and it overflows and can't ever get out, and it just overflows into the whole house. It's not a good picture. That cell starts to choke, starts to die, starts to get weakened. Now you have a picture of how disease happens. And then guess what you get when you have all that toxins and buildup and stuff come in? What happens if you leave your trash out for months at a time in your house? I don't know exactly because I haven't done it, but I bet you'll get bacteria and fungus and maggots, and because that's part of God's kingdom. That stuff is supposed to come and clean up and eliminate and break down the bad stuff. Same thing happens in your body. that stuff builds up in your body, you're going to get bacteria and fungus and parasites. So is the parasite the problem? Is the bacteria the problem? No, it's actually part of God's kingdom, and you might be in a worse situation if they weren't there. So you do need to kill bacteria, you do need to kill parasites, but you need to fix the main problem, which is your sewer system's clogged, the lymphatic system. So you must be able to eliminate this stuff. And your body's always trying to eliminate in ways we don't understand. Like a cold and flu-like symptom, a sneeze, a cough. Your body's trying to get rid of stuff. Your runny nose, and your body's just trying to get rid of stuff, And the cleaner you get, the less it will have to do of that. But it will still happen sometimes. It's just normal. It's the way God made us. Or you get a fever. People want to stop the fever. It's like, wait a second. Why did God create the body to have a fever? Well, it's probably trying to, A, create perspiration, because you eliminate through your skin too, and it's heating up, and the hotter it gets, it kills some of those bacteria and parasites, and so sometimes it's a lot better to just assist the body in what it's trying to do. There are limits, and you don't want a fever to go too high, but you don't want to just stop it, because then that nothing, your body's trying to get rid of stuff, and then it can't do it, and that just builds up and builds up and builds up. So to kind of wrap all that up, good elimination means moving our bowels 3 times a day, ideally, or really forever how many times you ate. If you're going even once a day, once every other day, once a week, that's not good. I mean, there's people, I've heard of a guy that goes, like sometimes it'll be a month. He's an airline pilot, and he says sometimes it'll go a month. I mean, can you imagine all this stuff build up? I mean, I wince almost when somebody tells me they go every 3 or 4 days. We're meant to go for basically every meal we've eaten. And as you clean and get stuff moving, that starts to happen. So yeah, you correct the digestion, absorption, utilization, elimination, health, vitality, energy, everything comes back. Disease goes away because the body can do what it was meant to do. So I'm going to get into this a little bit more in depth, eliminating disease through cleansing and rebuilding. So we talk about detoxifying and what that is. As opposed to treating the symptom, we're going after that root cause. What's the root cause of what's going on? And let's address that and fix it. So that's what detoxification and regeneration is. It's going after the root, and it's not a quick fix, take this pill and you're done. That's not the case with the medical industry anyway. It's no, take this pill for the rest of your life and it's only going to get worse. At least you have a solution here where you can detoxify, you can regenerate, you can partner with God in every realm of your life. It's just, we're talking a lot about the physical, but I get into here too. Detoxification really means on all levels. You're detoxifying your thoughts, your spiritual life, your mind, everything. If it's all in alignment with God, disease doesn't exist. So yeah, we're going after that root cause, and there's 3 basic reasons for disease. Again, I use disease kind of lightly, but acidosis is that acidic environment in the body and you can have acidic stuff from thoughts too. Anger is acidic. Hate, very acidic. Detrimental to the body. Love is alkaline. It's where we're supposed to be. But of course, what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, what you put on your skin, all that stuff goes into your body and determines the environment on the inside. So acidosis, very inflammation, congestion, it's just really bad. So we have to fix the diet. For sure. Toxicity, again, we're getting bombarded by toxins. It's amazing we can even live today, but we have to get the body to be able to work more properly to eliminate stuff. And then we got to stop putting the burden on the body as much as we can by stop putting the junk in our body. And then you have tissue weakness that could be passed down genetically. Sometimes I think natural health people kind of sheer away from the genetic aspect of it, but there is truth in it. People are getting born more and more with genetic weaknesses, even as young kids. You start to see it more in the young people, and it's sad because mom was messed up, and then she had a baby, and now that baby's born into this world with a weakness, and it was never supposed to be that way. But God wants to restore that. So yeah, you see some, it's really sad when you have a 6-month-old baby that has lymphoma cancer or something. And it's like, he didn't even do anything. But again, this genetic weakness is passed down. But we're not bound by those weaknesses that got passed to us. We might have had a weakness, and we can address that, and we can fix it. And then not be, but some people think, well, my mom had this, I'm going to have it, and my kids are going to have it. And it's just, that's not true either. That's a lie. God wants to fix and make all things new. And He can, and He does. So between these 3 root causes, 99.9% of all diseases stem from that. And this isn't my statistic. I'm just sharing it. I get this information from several people that have done this stuff for a long time, and I've talked several times about Dr. Morse. He's been practicing and seeing people for 43 years. And he studied with a guy that practiced for 60 years, healing people and, getting them in alignment with God, basically. So this is stuff that they say that I'm just sharing and in agreement with also. I'm just not making a lot of this up. So regeneration and detoxification, it has 3 main components to it: alkalizing, detoxing, and energizing. So you alkalize, you get the body alkaline like it's supposed to be, and then you detoxify. But all this stuff happens synergistically together at the same time. It's not one and then the other and the other. If you eat right, if you take herbs, if you do it all together, it all happens simultaneously. You alkalize, you detox, your body starts to remove the stuff it doesn't need, the acids, the toxins, the poisons, and then as you free up that cell, all of a sudden that cell's like happy again. I might get funny with it a little bit, but yeah, that cell has been congested and got junk around it for months and years, and all of a sudden it gets free and it's getting what it needs and it can get rid of what it needs. That cell is happy, and in turn you're happy. It's not always a quick process. It's the only process we have, really, unless God just supernaturally heals you, which I said can happen, and I'm all for that. But I think He designed us to mainly just be in communion with Him and partnering with Him with every area. But yeah, all 3 of them work together. Let's see, where do I want to go from here? Because I do have a lot of notes. Again, giving you guys a lot of stuff to take home and dig into if you want. I was telling a couple other people that details and organization isn't my strong point. But God's really stretched me and wanted me to do this type of stuff and put together notes and be really organized and very detailed. And it's been a stretch for me, but it's been good because I know that somebody needs this. The details and all that. I could just get up here with no notes and just talk to you for an hour. It may not be as good, I don't know. But having the notes and having the details, I think, was important for something. So, and if you eat real living foods before you cook them, they're raw, they're in the state that God created them. They're so energizing, they're so cleansing, they're so powerful, electrical. You can measure it. In some of the folders, I have where they study the electrical components of foods and talk about fruits being the highest energetic, and where not normal people, but where most people are energetically, and then you get people that are more diseased and cancer, their energy levels are low. So some of the best ways to get them energized back up is give them the main fruits that are full of energy, which are the fruits God created. You take a cooked meat, and it has no energy. So true detoxification, like I said, it must take place at all levels, and it does. You almost can't help it. When you're truly doing the right things, you'll start to detox mentally, emotionally. I had a good friend of mine that would come into the store, and he was doing a pretty intense cleanse, and he called me this week almost several times, like, man, I'm having all these thoughts and all these these old memories and this old anger's coming out of me, and I don't know what to do with it, and all this, it's getting detoxed out of him whether he wants it or not. So I'm just like, all right, brother, hang in there. It's going to get better, but God's revealing these things to you, and He wants you to address them and heal them and get rid of them. So, that stuff happens, but you can purposely go for it too, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, on all levels. And there's some stuff in there talking about the emotional states of anger and love. And like I said, love is alkaline, and anger creates stress and constricts things and puts stress on the adrenal glands and all that type of stuff. So, God is love. That's where He wants us to be too. So how do we get the body to detoxify? I mean, I've kind of already talked about it, but I wrote it out a little bit more in depth. We're mainly meant to be alkaline, so we got to start giving ourselves alkaline-forming things. Get away from the processed sugars, the processed grains, the Snickers bars, the ice cream, and get more into the raw fruits and vegetables especially. Those are very alkaline forming, and I gave you guys charts that talk about which ones are the highest alkaline forming. And we're not meant to be all alkaline forming either. We do need acids, and they serve a purpose, but they have a lesser role. Acids create change. They create, you talk about digestion or a hormone like testosterone, very acidic. It creates change. Estrogen creates change, right, women? When the estrogen goes up, change happens. The cycles move. Stuff gets cleaned out. It's just part of the way God made it. But we're meant to be more alkaline forming. So you need a balance, but more alkaline forming stuff. So the first thing to do is to eat these foods, like I've talked about. Fruit has the highest amount of antioxidants, astringent properties of all foods. Fruit, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's, and a lot of the people I've studied from, fruit is the ideal for humans. Yes, vegetables, and yes, some grains, and yes, some nuts and all that, but in the right proportion. Fruits being the king, in my opinion, and that's why they taste so good for us too, because He designed it that way, to go for what tastes the best. But we do need some fats from nuts and different things, and we do need vegetables. But they've seen it in practice for decades that the more you get into the fruits, the more energizing, the more cleansing, the more rebuilding it is. So the more you can get into the fruits, the better. Fruits also have the highest electrical properties, like I said. They speed up neuron transport and endocrine gland function too. So fruits are powerful, and I've experienced it, and I've seen so many people do it too. They're always low on energy. They start to switch. They start to eat more fruits, and man, the energy, everything comes back. You want to make sure you're not combining fruit wrong. That's why I gave you the food combining. You combine fruit with meat, and you got a bad combo there. The fruit's just gonna ferment, and it's not going to get broken down, and it's going to cause problems. But fruit by itself, it's the best thing you can do. I put a little note in here too about it's actually possible to detoxify too quickly. You see that sometimes. People go from a completely messed up diet straight into like for example, if you went from eating junk constantly straight into like water fasting, you're probably going to feel really bad. You're getting cleansed for sure, but it's not going to be comfortable. So it's possible to go too quickly. I just put a little note in there for people that really have a lot of issues. Might be best to start to slowly switch, or you can quickly switch into raw, but you stay more on the more vegetables and fruits. That'll kind of help balance it, and then slowly work your way more into the more fruit until you finally get to all fruit. And then where you go from there is to like juice fasting, and then water fasting being the most intense cleansing. But you guys know, if you've done, and I know some of you have, some fasting, and sometimes you get headaches, you get weak, you get pains, but sometimes I've done a fast, and I might have been weak and had a headache for a couple of days. By day 4, 5, 6, all of a sudden my energy's coming back. I'm feeling good. I can think clearly because that stuff is getting cleansed out. So it's definitely good, but in the right place. I just make a caution that you can detox too quickly, and you need to know when to like pull it back a little bit and when to step on the gas pedal. But life is a constant process of consuming, eliminating. You're always going to be detoxing. It just matters on how much you are. And the more fruits and vegetables you eat on a regular basis, the more you are. And I put a little quote in here: God heals and the doctor takes the fees. It's kind of funny. It's an old Benjamin Franklin quote that I like. So now we're kind of talking about getting into the herbs. So what all these classes are about, herbal remedies. But I want to lay the foundation to understanding health before we get into the herbs. Because again, somebody can approach herbs the same way as they do medicine. I have a headache. What's the herb that's going to help take away the headache? And that might be necessary sometimes. But herbs are mainly meant to be used, in my opinion, to heal, to cleanse, to regenerate, not to just cover up symptoms. But herbs are powerful for detoxification, regeneration, restoration of the cells. If you go to the grocery store today, most of the vegetables in the store are hybridized. Some of them are genetically modified. So basically saying all this to say it's different a lot of times than the way God created it. When you get into the herbals, the botanicals, most of the time, they haven't been hybridized yet. They haven't been changed yet. They still carry that original design, that original awareness that God created them with, therefore making them more powerful. The more you, as humans, we try to alter things to make it better, to get better yields, to get better whatever, the more we get away from the way God designed it. He's going, man, why don't you just acknowledge me and just, man thinks we're so smart and we can do things better than God. But a lot of the herbs, the botanicals, they haven't been hybridized. They're non-hybrid vegetables. They still have that power. So that's why they're so effective. And a lot of them are almost tissue specific when you learn what they're for, how they're used. This one's good for the pituitary gland. This one strengthens the thyroid. This one moves the lymphatic system. So it's awesome. I love learning about it. It's like God just blows my mind with these herbs and learning how, again, from the beginning, I feel like it was like that. He taught people. So I'm going to get into talking about herbs and how to use them to move certain things. But kind of the last piece to understanding detoxification and cleansing and health is going through these systems, which I did whole classes on, but I'm going to talk briefly about them and the importance, because these are the main systems that you need healthy to cleanse. You could actually still be, if you're messed up enough and you start eating right, that will help to some degree, but you're not going to have that much breakthrough unless you really address and cleanse specifically, like with herbs and different things, target certain areas to really get the breakthrough in them. So starting with the bowels, like I said, we have to consume and eliminate, but most people's bowels are so messed up and congested that it will take a long time to if you just eat right, and that's a big step to it, but using the herbs just so speeds up the process. And a lot of natural health was basically birthed out of understanding the bowels are like the root of everything. That's what people teach you in the natural health world. The bowels are the root of everything. And Dr. Bernard Jensen, which that name may not mean a lot to a lot of you, but I've studied through Dr. Morse, Dr. Robert Morse, and he's been practicing natural health for 43 years. Well, Dr. Bernard Jensen was like kind of one of his mentors-ish. They kind of worked together, and he studied from him. Jensen, he's passed away now, but he studied and helped people and practiced health and healing to people for 60 years. So they did a lot of learning and understanding together. And this man saw well over 300,000 clients and helped them with their healing and saw miraculous things. But in his own words, he said it's the bowels that invariably have to be cared for first before any effective healing can take place. So this man obviously lived it. He knew what was going on, and this was even in a time where it wasn't as crazy as it is today. We experience even more that messes us up. But yeah, the gastrointestinal tract, the digestive tract is the hub of the body. So yeah, how do we keep that clean? How do we cleanse it at a higher level? And like I said, it's important to move your bowels daily, at least 2 to 3 times a day. And if you're not, that's okay. Like, don't freak out. But let's get working on that. Let's eat the right foods, and then also you can use restorative, cleansing, moving herbal formulas. I'm not a big fan of laxatives, because what a laxative does is just forces stuff through and out, as opposed to there's herbal formulas that help not move too quickly, but just move just enough and also cleanse and rebuild, as opposed to you just take a laxative, it just blows everything out. That's not really the main purpose. Every once in a while, maybe, but a good bowel formula cleanses, it rebuilds, it breaks down that mucoid plaque, it helps rebuild tissue, it's not a laxative, but it will help you move more. So I like, at the end I'm going to talk about different formulas, and I am kind of partial to Dr. Morse's formulas, not because I studied through him, but because he created, it started with him having a practice, and he would use other people's formulas, and then he decided, I can make them way more powerful, and I can hone them in more specifically if I make them myself. So he created he didn't create the products first and then figure out how to sell them. He created, he was seeing people, and then he created these formulas specific on how can I address these different systems. So for example, his stomach and bowels formulas, he's got 4 different ones depending on how often you move and what you need. So somebody's moving every day, their bowels, he has one that's still going to help cleanse, but it's not going to give you too much to, again, speed it up too much. Number 2 is if you're only moving maybe once every other day, once every third day, this helps speed up, but again, very cleansing, rebuilding still. And it gets stronger and stronger as you go to 4. And I think he actually has a 5. It's like a really strong mover for those people that only move once a week or once a month, like that guy. He needs something really strong to move, but not still just pure laxative. He needs something to rebuild and cleanse too. So Dr. Morse is a genius when he's created these formulas. So bowels, A, number 1. Kidneys being number 2, because the kidneys are the main filters of the body. They filter all of the blood. When the kidneys are messed up, and it's easily said that everybody has kidney weakness to some degree. It's just how much we have it. They have to be filtered to cleanse the blood. It's how God created it. Stuff gets in the blood, and the kidneys cleanse the blood. And also the lymphatic system, the sewer system of the body, guess where it dumps? Into the kidneys to get cleansed and taken out of the body. So the kidneys get backed up. The lymph doesn't have anywhere to dump, or it backs up there, which stagnates the whole lymphatic system, which stagnates it back to the cell. So, or if you really start moving that lymph and the kidneys aren't working well, you'll experience some pain down there. Burning, urinary tract infections, because it can't get rid of that stuff. So, the raw fruits and vegetables are definitely key to the kidneys, starting to cleanse them out. They're high water, high astringents, high cleansing factors. But the herbs are really like the golden key that unlocks them. When you're really backed up and you're really needing help, the herbs for the kidneys are really vital. And again, Dr. Morse has several kidney formulas for that. And then also I said, don't forget the skin. They actually consider the skin, it's the largest organ in the body. It's the largest organ in the body, and it's actually considered the 3rd kidney. It's not a kidney, of course, but it pushes so many toxins out of the skin. And so it's important. if you never sweat, there are people that hardly ever sweat, and it's usually because of a glandular weakness. The thyroid is important for your metabolism and your heat and all that. So a lot of people are cold hands and feet all the time, have low thyroid function. But it also causes you, if you're not sweating and sweating things out of the skin, you're not getting rid of as many things as you should be. So it's important to nourish those glands, but do things to promote perspiration. Take a hot shower, a hot bath, exercise. That's why exercise is good for so many reasons, but that's part of it. We're meant to sweat. And then the lymphatic system. So I mentioned the lymphatic system dumps into the kidneys, but the lymphatic system, I did a whole class on it because it's so vital and so important. It's like one of the main things that Dr. Morse goes after in these main healers is you got to get the lymphatic system moving in today's world because people are so clogged up there. And you can do all of these simultaneously. Kidneys, bowels, lymphatic, endocrine. You can do them all simultaneously. If you feel like it's more necessary, you could do the bowels and the kidneys first and then move on to the lymphatic, but you can just do them all simultaneously too. But lymphatic system, just to give you a couple of key points that I didn't put in here, everybody knows the circulatory system and the blood and the veins and the heart and all that. There's more lymph fluid and more lymph vessels in your body than blood in blood vessels. And that's just when I first heard that. It's why do they not talk about it? And there was a guy, Hippocrates, that whenever he was alive, hundreds of years ago, I don't know exactly, he talked about it, but then when the medical community, they only wanted to address the blood and talk about the blood. There's more, and they said sometimes 2 to 3 times more lymph fluid than blood in your system. So you can look at a lymph chart and there's vessels all over the place. There's actually 2 different lymphatic systems in the brain, the main one that goes to the whole body and a separate one. It would be God's geniusness to put an extra lymphatic system to help remove stuff from the brain, because what happens if the brain gets too toxic? You're done. And you have hundreds of lymph nodes all over your body. The lymph nodes are more like the septic tanks of the body. You have different bacteria there, so that the lymph will take the waste and take them to the lymph nodes, and your good bacteria and stuff will break the stuff down and move it along. Same thing as in a normal septic tank. You have bacteria, and they break the waste down, and then it moves on. So it's so important, but so many people, because of their diets, their lifestyles, the lymph is just stagnated. It's clogged up. So you have to get that moving from eating good food, movement. Again, you have a heart that pumps the blood, because if you don't get blood, you die really quickly. Lymph, you don't die quickly, you just die slowly if the lymph gets stagnant. So the lymph doesn't have a pump. How do you move it? Well, good foods will keep it moving, and not eating congesting foods, and then also movement, muscle contractions, move that lymph. So as you're exercising, as you're moving, we're meant to be moving. I know in today's world we're very stagnant and sitting in an office all day, and you got to find time to exercise. And it doesn't have to be going hard for 2 hours, lifting weights as hard as you can in the gym. It could be light walking, or we've talked about rebounding. It's like a little mini trampoline you can just jump on. You don't have to jump high, you can just jump. You can just do it on the ground too, but it's just easier on a rebounder and easier on the knees. But try jumping up and down as high as you can, like 20 times in a row, and you'll see how exhausting it can be and how moving it is. But stimulate that lymphatic system, because those 100 trillion cells eat and eliminate too, and it has to go somewhere. And it goes into that lymphatic system. If it's not moving properly, it's really bad. So I put some other keys in here. Dry skin brushing can help stimulate the lymph. So yeah, a dry skin brush, you do it dry, and you move it always in one direction towards the heart, and it stimulates lymph movement. Also lymph massage, and you want to make sure that the kidneys are filtering before or during while you're addressing the lymph, because the kidneys aren't filtering. Again, you have issues with that. And then the last main thing is the endocrine glands. The gland, the master computer of the body. And it's said that it could be the most overlooked system in the body. I don't know. But it tells your body what to do, how to function, when to release hormones, how much to release, neurotransmitters, enzymes, all sorts of things. So, it said that approximately 75% of disease symptoms can be attributed to endocrine gland weaknesses. And again, everybody has weaknesses. It's just to what degree and which ones are more serious than others. So, the main glands are like the adrenal glands, pancreas, thymus, thyroid, parathyroid, testes, ovaries, and the master gland is the pituitary. So, and they're seeing more and more in younger kids being born with these gland weaknesses, and it's just sad. But again, we can address that. But the glands are super important for. I don't even have time to break it all down. I know we're running short on a little bit of time, and I don't want to make a super long video. Anybody that wants, you can go back, and I did a whole video, a whole series on the endocrine glands. Talked about each one individually and what herbs are good for each one. I will address with formulas in this class, but you can go and watch the video, print out the notes. I did a whole video on the endocrine glands on how important they are. Especially we talked about acidosis. The adrenal glands they produce anti-inflammatory agents that buffer, steroids that buffer acids. So again, God put a little check in there that if we do have a little bout of acidity, even when you work out, you produce lactic acid, but your body can buffer it. But if those glands get weak, that acid starts running rampant, pain, inflammation, stagnation, all that type of stuff. So, and then the glands related to mineral utilization and energy and just everything you talk about. So at the end here, I've got top formulas for detoxification and healing. Regarding the main systems that I went through. So the stomach and bowels, again, I don't like laxatives. That's why I like Dr. Morse's formulas. He's got several different ones related to related to your need. But we do have some others too. But those are really great because they're very restorative, cleansing, and moving at the degree you need it. But you never want too much movement. You also have what's called the GI Broom. It's a mix. It actually comes from Dr. Morse too, but a mix of just really powerful herbs and absorbent things that really help like broom out the system for additional just to absorb toxins, cleanse, rebuild. It's a good addition to that. And we have another product here, On the Move Cleanse. They're in little capsules and they're herbs that are kind of the same idea. Stuff for moving, stuff for cleansing, rebuilding. And then we normally just have people start with 1 or 2 capsules a day and then keep increasing every day until you hit the right amount of movement. But I like Dr. Morse's the best because I just feel like they had the most specific and they're the most powerful. When you get into kidneys, again, Dr. Morse, he's got kidney and bladder tinctures. He's got tinctures and capsules. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. And depending on what you need, he's got them for cleansing out those kidneys. And they're very powerful. We also make a kidney cleanse tea here. That's really awesome. I make it and I use all of our fresh herbs. They're all organic, all wildcrafted. I make it together fresh and you can drink this tea. You can heat it up and drink it throughout the day and it's constantly getting these cleansing, rebuilding herbs through the kidneys because the kidneys are filtering. So you drink that throughout the day. It's constantly getting in there, clearing out, cleansing, rebuilding. So that's another great way to approach it. A couple other products, Total Kidney Detox. It's a little kit of like 2 different pills, I think. This is all herbal, really good. And then another tincture called Kidney Bladder Aid by Cedar Bear. It's a good formula. But again, I feel like Dr. Morse's are the most specific and the most powerful. Lymphatic system. This is like Dr. Morse's biggest thing. And we carry his products now. And I think he's got 4 or 5 different lymphatic system products, and then he's got lymph node products too. So capsules and tinctures that you can take, and we normally start with the lower number and then work your way on up as you need more and more cleansing because the stronger ones are their higher number. But again, very powerful formulas. We also have another tincture by Cedar Bear called Lymphatic Cleanse. We created a lymphatic tea, same principle, a tea you can drink. The Heal All Tea also has some very good lymphatic stuff in it too, but more stuff for the whole body cleansing. And then I put the dry skin brush too because it's such a good, easy way. You can get a cheap dry skin brush and brush the skin before you shower and it stimulates lymph movement. And then the endocrine glands. You always go after the endocrine glands when you're trying to address sickness or healing or just feeling better. And we've got some really great formulas. Dr. Morse's Endocrine Balance and his Gland Tonic. They're both really good formulas, a little bit different. The Gland Tonic has a little deer antler in it, which is really powerful for regeneration. Another company that has an endocrine strengthening formula, a little bit different, but all herbal, very powerful. Anything with deer antler in it is going to be very powerful for the endocrine glands. Deer antler is really highly restorative, regenerating. These deer grow these antlers every year. It's like us growing a leg bone every year, and it happens really quickly when it happens. At certain times, it can grow up to 2 centimeters a day. So the Chinese and the people way back, they used to know, like, there's some power in that, and they would start to consume it and have the same, not growing a leg bone or an antler, but they would have this effect of regeneration and energy and vitality, and now we can study it and realize all these growth factors in deer antler, and it's one of the most powerful things for rebuilding, regenerating, but it's a natural thing, and you need to make sure you have a good quality product, because and you can only get it certain times of the year, and they don't harm the animals. They usually have a big area for them to go, and they bring them in one time a year and numb them and just cut part of the antler off. This is the tip. So yeah, they don't harm the animals if anybody's wondering in that, but very highly effective in rebuilding the system. So we have straight deer antler. We have another product where it's mixed, and it's in some of the other formulas too. Shen Nong ginseng is just another one I want to mention. Ginseng, when I did my endocrine gland class, ginseng is like really powerful. So this Shen Nong is like ginseng on steroids, kind of. It's a concentrated liquid ginseng with all of the different kinds of ginseng, like 10-to-1 concentrate in this liquid. Is really highly powerful for the endocrine glands and just for general vitality. And then anything with pine pollen is good for the endocrine glands. Pine pollen is, I could say so much about it, and I've said so much in last classes, but it's got a lot of what we call phytosterols. It's like plant hormones. They're natural. They're from the plant. So we consume them, and it's not giving us a hormone. It's not giving us a steroid, but it's like the precursors for the body to use that to make what it needs easier. So you give that to the body, and guys can produce testosterone easier. Women can produce whatever they need, estrogen and all that type of stuff, progesterone, and plus it's just highly nutritive. But it really helps energize the glands. Again, they're important for producing hormones and all sorts of stuff. So that's my little thing on formulas. I even shied away from talking about products, and because I'm not here to sell anything. I don't get any benefit if any buys anything. But I want to talk about the best formulas for each category because they're the ones that are going to help you the most. So these are, in my opinion, and what I've seen and what other people have seen, some of the best ones for each category. And then I leave you guys with this little 10 steps to being successful. For the video, I'll just mention them really quickly, but you guys can read about them, and anybody watching the video at home, you can go on and print the notes and get it too. But just a simple 10-step thing to kind of basics. But number one, acknowledge and connect with the Creator, God. He created us for a relationship with Him. He created us to be filled with love and to exude His love and to be in partnership with Him in every area of our life. And when we do that, we're filled with joy and love and peace and purpose. And so that's like number one, important. Seek Him out and know Him and connect with Him. Number two is the diet. We don't live to eat, but we do need to eat to live. And eat the things that God created. Number three, it's good to invite the healthcare professional to kind of walk you through if you really need an experience some deeper healing. That could be beneficial, or somebody that knows more than you that could walk you through the process. Sometimes there could be some knowing what glands to approach and if I'm detoxing too much or all that type of stuff. So it's good to have a healthcare professional that walks you through, that's in the natural health, that knows the healing modality and stuff. Number four is find somebody that's really good at iridology, reading the iris. I've talked about this a little bit in the past classes, but iridology is really the only way of it's a soft tissue analysis. People can take blood tests, people can take such and such, but it's only giving a little snapshot of what's going on in the body. It's not giving the full picture. But you can look at the eyes really in depth, and it will tell you everything that's going on. It's pretty fascinating. And I used to think that's kind of weird. That's a little weird. I don't know about that. But as I've learned from Dr. Morse and Dr. Bernard Jensen, that's their main tool. And people that are really good at it, it's scary how accurate they are. They can look at your eyes, study them, and go, oh, when you were younger, you had a car crash and broke your right leg. And you're just like, what? I've started to learn about it a little bit, and I know a little bit, and I'm looking at getting certified in iridology, both myself and the owner. But yeah, even just knowing a little bit, you can see God created different areas of the eye that relate to different parts of the body. This one guy way back started to have this idea when he had this owl. He had a pet owl, and the owl broke its wing or something, and he got this spot on his eye. And as it healed, the spot went away. He said, well, that's interesting. And he started studying it more and finding how it's created and connected to different parts. And now they've got it down to a science. So you can tell buildups of chemical medication in the body. You can see the bowels, and if they're congested, if the lymph's congested, the kidney weakness, heart congestion. You name it, it's got stuff for everything. So somebody that's really good at that, It's really good to see your weaknesses that might have been passed down to you and really address those. So we want to eventually do that here. We're not doing it yet, but yeah. And then number 5, always move the lymph system. Everyone has some type of a lymph stagnation, so always move that lymph system. Number 6, parasites. It is important to get rid of parasites, and sometimes take a couple weeks or a month to do some parasite stuff and get rid of those bad boys while you're really going after health. Number 7, clean your liver and enhance the pancreas, because this helps with digestion, absorption, that type of stuff. 8, chemical medications. You don't have to worry about them interacting with herbs. 99.9% of them don't react with herbs. There are a few that you would want to watch out for. And a lot of people will find, I'm not a doctor to tell people to get off their meds or anything like that, but you'll find as you start cleansing and rebuilding, you can probably lower your meds as you go along and eventually get off of them, and you may not need them anymore. But you probably need somebody to help walk you through that process too. Number 9, as you detox, you could encounter different healing crises, different symptoms that come out of that, and sometimes that's normal. It's just part of the process, a headache or a rash as you're detoxing, as the body's like clearing and getting stuff out. And so having somebody to talk to about that can be important. And then finally, just your attitude. Enjoy what we're doing. We're here to have fun on this earth. We're here to love, to connect with God, and to share what He's done and what He's brought to everybody. We get a lot of these weaknesses passed down to us, but let's partner with God in our health and love life. So, that's about all I got for you guys. There's a lot of info, but you guys can take that home, and I give you guys some folders and different things. And then if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them. Thanks. Any questions? I went through a lot of stuff.
All new to me. Sounds good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Yeah.
You said that you can do all the cleanses at once if you wanted, but if your body's not used to cleansing or you're just entering into this, then you shouldn't do that, right?
Okay, so your question, just to repeat it for the camera if it can't hear, but I mentioned you could go after all those systems simultaneously, but you said if you're new to it, it might be best to...
Any of this, and you're just toxic, and you might detox way too fast, so not to do that.
Well, and I didn't necessarily say it because of detoxing too quickly, but you could detox too quickly, but you could do it in a way where you're not detoxing too quickly and still address all the systems at the same time. Some people, will address like the bowels and the kidneys first and then move on. It is important to have certain things in line, but I know people like Dr. Morris, they'll just address it all at once, unless it's like a really, really serious case where you really need to be, careful about stuff. And we might start with kidneys and bowel and not really, do some fruits, but more vegetables, and then just slowly watch the process and move along. Somebody that's debilitated and cancer, and but even a lot of the cancer patients, he'll put them on everything all at once, because as long as you're taking that kidney formula, it's starting to cleanse and open that up, and you're taking that bowel formula, it's moving the bowels. So in my opinion, you could do them all at the same time. It's just a matter of again, having somebody to talk to walk you through the process. But the higher you get into the fruits and moving that lymph, the better. But sometimes you don't want to jump right into it. For most people, you probably could jump most of the way in and be fine.
No,
I don't know if that kind of helps.
No, it does, because I was told you start with specific systems and you just keep going. But hey, I want to just go for it and not waste months and months and months, Unless there's something, like you said, something specific I needed to target, which I did. Then just jump right into the whole.
Yeah, and I think it's an individual thing too. But I've seen so many times where you just address it all. Dr. Morris will give somebody a lymphatic, a kidney, a stomach and bowel, a parasite, a liver gallbladder. Boom, go, all at the same time.
Just go for it.
Yeah, with a protocol, but it's all tailored to the individual person. So, if somebody's got a really, really bad one area, we may address that a little bit first and then go into everything else. But for the most part, a lot of people can just take all of it and go. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See ya. Thank you. I got a folder for you if you want that I put together with some
Appreciate it.
materials and stuff.